Did people really think swallowing live tapeworms was an effective dieting technique? Do we really get more miserable in our 20s? Well, scientists say we do. This and more with 20 random facts that are slightly weird and entirely true. Of all the wild diet trends people have tried, few are more horrifying than the tapeworm diet. People from the Victorian era willingly swallowed tapeworm eggs, thinking the worms would just sit in their intestines and eat their food. It was marketed as a genius way to eat whatever you wanted and still stay slim. But tapeworms are living parasites. They can grow up to 80 feet and even find their way to the brain or eyes, often causing seizures and death. The diet's long been banned for obvious reasons, but this hasn't stopped shadier characters selling tapeworm eggs and live worm injections on the black market. In 1864, Denmark lost a war and had to give up a large part of its land. Many Danes suddenly found themselves living under foreign rule, where even simple acts like flying their country's flag were banned. So farmers came up with a clever form of protest. They began selectively breeding pigs with bright red coats and a bold white stripe down the middle, just like their national flag. They proudly displayed these protest pigs near roads and in open fields as a subtle act of resistance, and today these pigs are recognised as a Danish heritage breed. Cambridge researchers were tired of walking down the hall only to find the coffee pot empty, so they set up a webcam, not for science, but simply to check that the coffee pot was full. And it wasn't meant to be historic, just a fix to a mildly lazy problem, but in 1993 it ended up being the world's first live webcam feed on the internet. In 2015, a mystery man in Manchester, aptly named Wanksy, was tired of waiting for the city's potholes to be fixed, so he took action into his own hands. And by action, I mean a can of washable spray chalk, the same chalk they use on sports fields or for temporary road markings. He used that chalk to draw what can only be described as creative, eye-catching images around the potholes. And it actually worked. Potholes that had been ignored for months were suddenly repaired within days, proving that nothing's more effective than a healthy dose of embarrassment. In the 1580s, English printer Henry Denham had an idea. He noticed that people kept misreading tone in writing, so he proposed the percontation point, a backwards question mark meant to indicate sarcasm or rhetorical questions. The word originates from the Latin percontare, meaning to ask without expectation or answer. But despite it being a pretty smart idea, it never caught on. And to this day, we still don't have a punctuation mark for sarcasm. Just awkward texts, misread messages, and a lot of confused readers. Global research company Gallup, famous for tracking happiness and emotional trends worldwide, released a global study that found we all start to get a little bit gloomier in our 20s. Experts are calling this the Humour Cliff. This is when adult responsibilities start piling up, there's bills to pay, deadlines to meet, and plenty of big life choices. It's a cliff because of the sudden drop in the amount we laugh. Kids, they laugh around 300 times a day. Adults, maybe 10. But don't worry, it's not forever. The study also found that we remember how to laugh later in life. The next time you're in the mood for a healthy snack, don't go picking up the Veggie straws. Sure, the name sounds appealing. I mean, anything with vegetables can't be bad. This is true, if only they contained any meaningful amount of vegetables. No, Veggie straws are only about 1% real vegetables. The rest is starch. They serve up 17% of the recommended daily sodium intake and are generally quite a bit unhealthier than your average store-bought potato chip. The Romans love their gods. You've no doubt heard of Venus and Mars, but what about Cardea? Well, they love gods so much they had a god for everything. Cardea was the god of hinges. Yes, literally the things that attach doors to walls. But it was a bit deeper than that. The hinge symbolized the threshold between inside and out, between safety and the unknown. And it didn't stop there. There was Sterculus, the god of manure, Formax, the goddess of baking, and even Clocina, the protector of Rome's ancient sewer system. In 1974, North Korea pulled off what is believed to be the biggest car theft in history. They ordered 1,000 Volvo sedans from Sweden, had them delivered, and then simply thought, nah, we're not going to pay for that. But this doesn't stop Sweden adding interest to the $300 million plus bill, even though they know the chances they'll see the money again are slim. And the craziest part, those same Volvos are reportedly still cruising around Pyongyang today, nearly 50 years later. Back in the 1800s, electricity wasn't just new, it was terrifying. People thought that the wires from telegraph poles and electric lights gave off invisible rays that could literally drive you mad. So naturally, they went ahead and strapped lead-lined belts around their waists for protection. Problem is, it soon became apparent that lead is highly toxic. Turns out, lead is way more dangerous than a light pole. And for some, those fears never left. They just swapped the lead-lined belts for tinfoil hats. To promote their world-renowned gold maple leaf bullion series, in 2007 the Royal Canadian Mint designed and produced 5 big maple leaf coins. Each coin was made of 99.9% pure gold, it weighed 100 kilograms, and it had a face value of $1 million. But the problem with minting 100 kilogram pure gold coins is that someone's bound to steal one. And that's exactly what happened. One coin was on display at a museum in Berlin when thieves broke in, shattered the glass case, lifted it into a wheelbarrow, and rolled straight out the front door. This won't surprise anyone, but the coin was never recovered. Before it became the tech giant we know today, Google went by the name Backrub. It analysed backlinks, links from other websites that acted like online votes or recommendations. The more links a page had, the more important it seemed. And back then, it ran on a pretty basic setup, complete with secondhand parts, old servers, and hard drives marked with duct tape and Sharpies. They eventually ditched the name Backrub and went with Google, a spin on Google, 1 followed by 100 zeros. Why? Because it reflected their ambition of organising a near infinite sea of data. In the 19th century, post-mortem photography was big business. Photos were a luxury many couldn't afford, so families often only got a portrait of their loved one after they'd died. They called them last portraits or sleeping portraits. The deceased was made to appear alive, propped up with posing stands and surrounded by their very much alive family. Artists would even add pink tones to the cheeks, red hues to the lips, and paint open eyes on their eyelids to add to the illusion. If you think you've had a bad date, let me change your mind. Jacqueline Aids met a guy through Luxy, a super exclusive dating app catering to the ultra wealthy. Think Tinder for millionaires. After just one coffee catch up, Aids thought she'd met her soulmate. Over the next 10 months, she proceeded to send over 159,000 texts, sometimes up to 500 messages per day. Her obsession hit disturbing levels when she broke into his home, ran herself a bath, and was found soaking in the tub when the police showed up. Aids ended up being declared mentally unfit to stand trial, and she's now enjoying an extended phone-free vacation in a psychiatric facility. In China, retail data revealed that many men grew restless or impatient during long shopping trips. So in an effort to keep couples shopping for longer, they got creative. They invented the husband storage pod. These glass booths were decked out with massage chairs and old school arcade games, all in a mini air-conditioned man cave. France is getting serious on influencers. Gone are the days when you could throw on a filter and pretend it's all natural. A new law now requires influencers to disclose any digital edits on their content, whether it's face smoothing, reshaping, or lighting tweaks. And if you don't, you could be hit with a €75,000 fine. So ask yourself, is that selfie really worth it? The next time you go outside and it's pouring rain when the forecast said to expect sun, try not to be too upset. I mean, it does take about 10 billion calculations to simply produce a one-day weather forecast. Why is this? Well, weather models divide the atmosphere into millions of 3D grid boxes, each representing a small chunk of air. Then, using complex equations, they simulate how the temperature, wind, pressure, and humidity shift within each box. So, I agree. While it might be frustrating, try giving them a break if the forecast isn't quite right. Dreaming of the sun-soaked coasts of Portugal? What if I told you you could get there from Vietnam entirely by train? No flights, just tracks. This epic journey spans 17,000 kilometers, crosses 13 countries and 8 time zones, and takes around 10 days. And yes, you will have to switch trains a few times, but it's the longest possible journey by train on Earth. Back in the 50s, the US used a Regulus 1 cruise missile, normally equipped with a nuclear warhead, to deliver mail. They wanted to show the world the future of fast, high-tech mail delivery, and the test was a success. It was loaded with 3,000 letters, launched from a Navy sub in Florida, and flew 100 miles before arriving safely at its destination. But despite being a world first, it seems it was a bit before its time. Mail delivery by missile hasn't yet taken off. It's never good when your bladder is about to burst during the most exciting part of the movie. That is, of course, unless you're Swiss. That's right, because cinemas in Switzerland have screens inside bathroom stalls. Well, it's only the high-end cinemas, but still, the screens are synced in real time, so you won't miss a thing. And the Swiss don't stop there. They've got heated train seats, fondue vending machines, and automated bike storage where you just roll up, tap a screen, and a robot stashes your bike safely away in seconds. Whether it's the Roman god of hinges, the absurd history of post-mortem photography, or the mysterious pothole crusader known only as Wanksy, we can safely say that those facts were random. And here are more totally random facts to enjoy. Everything from roosters on trial for witchcraft to the chicken that lived 18 months without a head. I do love my poultry facts. Give them a watch, and until then, keep it real, and I'll catch you next time.